Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my review of Doctor Who Series 6, Episode 9, Night Terrors. So, this episode was originally going to be Episode 4, I believe, of this series. However, episodes got moved around a bit. So what was going to be Episode 9 or 10, The Curse of the Black Spot, moved to Episode 3. The Doctor's Wife, which was Episode 3, moved to Episode 4. And this episode, Episode 4, was moved to Episode 9. And if Curse of the Black Spot was going to be episode 10 before being moved. Then The Girl Who Waited, which is would have been episode 9 and being moved to episode 10 to allow Night Terrors to be episode 9. Something along those lines, anyway. So the good news is that there isn't really anything in Night Terrors to suggest that they have anything to tie into series 6 part 1's arc. So this episode actually works really good as a standalone episode. In fact, the ending is a nice tie-in to what's coming up later in the series. I say nice, it'll work. Okay, so Night Terrors. The plot of this episode sees the Doctor, Amy, and Rory receive a psychic message from a child, George, asking them to please save him from the monsters. He's so scared of everything because he's apparently George has been getting scared of a lot of stuff recently, and his parents, Alex and Claire, are struggling to cope with this. We don't really see much of Claire throughout the episode. She works as a nurse, I believe, at night. So it's mainly down to the dynamic between Alex and George throughout this episode, the father-son relationship, as opposed to as a whole family relationship. So anyway, so the Doctor, Amy, and Rory arrive at a council flat estate thing, which I've heard it might be Bristol, but I'm not entirely sure. It might have been filmed in Bristol. But anyway, so they go and have a look around, meet some people. Eventually, the Doctor finds George and attempts to help him sort out his fears. However, Amy and Rory are caught in the lift, which sends them down to this strange. Well, it turns out it's the doll's house in George's bedroom, as what in his wardrobe he has things he's scared of, and he puts in the cupboard, including the dollhouse. And somehow he's managed to get some of his fears to go inside the dollhouse. An old Amy and Rory in the lift. An old lady who, when she walks past his window, she sounds like a witch, and this not so nice landlord person with his dog, although the dog doesn't go to the wooden house thing. The landlord himself is not a outright nasty guy. He's just a bit scary in places. So anyway, so the Doctor attempts to try and help George overcome his fears, and that's basically the episode, trying to find out what's causing George's psychic energy to ask for help, and what's scaring him so much, and attempting to resolve his fears with help from George's dad, Alex, played brilliantly by Daniel Mays. So that's basically the episode, yeah, I think that's basically the story without giving away any of the twists. So I think this story works really well with the Doctor trying to talk to George and Alex and trying to find out what's going on. And Mark Gatiss does another really great creepy episode with on that side, as well as with Mrs. Rossiter, the old lady, and Mr. Persil, the landlord, being sucked through the bins or down the floor respectively, and then taken to the dollhouse, as it's revealed. Mind you, there is Mrs. Rossiter has one scene in the dollhouse, and the next time we see her, she's back at the bins. I think there was a few deleted scenes, or at least a deleted scene, where she got turned into a doll. However, Persil, we definitely see being turned into a doll, as we've got some creepy dolls in the dollhouse, and somehow they're able to turn humans into dolls. And I've got a very itchy nose. I'm sorry. Amy and Rory were transported down there in the lift, as George is afraid of the lift, and he overheard Rory saying, maybe we should let the monsters gobble him up, when he and Amy are talking about trying to find the kids and trying to help him. So that joke by Rory almost turned into a life or death situation. But there's some good stuff with Amy and Rory inside the dollhouse. It's another really creepy episode. Again, sorry about the itchy nose. Creepy episode within the dollhouse, and the two of them having to investigate. It's pretty good, and the dolls are pretty creepy, especially that transformation that Persil undertakes to become a doll. That is very creepy. That is pretty creepy. And what's even nastier is that Amy also gets turned into a doll. Thankfully, everything is resolved by the end. Everything is back to normal. But at the time, it's pretty creepy, especially that first transformation. Anyway, so the Doctor and Alex also get transported into the dollhouse once the Doctor realizes that George is in fact a Tenser, not a Tenser from The Woman Who Fell to Earth, but a Tensar, something. They've got very similar sounding names, um, but it's basically an alien cuckoo, so to speak. Like a cuckoo puts its eggs into another bird's nest. The Tensar, not the Tenser. Um, I'll just say George. It's just easier. I'm not going to muddle my alien species up. George has been placed in Alex and Claire, given to Alex and Claire as their child. But Claire, as Alex reveals, Claire can't have kids, and because they were desperate to have a kid back in 2002, 2003, that this species allowed them to have a child. A child of their own, and gave them a perception filter so that nobody would realize that they can have kids, and now they suddenly had one. Less than a month after Christmas, when Claire was not pregnant. So basically, George is an alien cuckoo, so to speak, not a cuckoo from space, just a cuckoo-like alien. Don't imagine a big giant cuckoo bird from space. It's like a cuckoo, but it's an alien that does the similar things as a cuckoo. Okay. However, George is scared that his parents are now starting to reject him, and now that's why he's getting all of these phobias and scares, and now his psychic energy is causing his fears to come true, and people are now going into this dollhouse and being turned into creepy dolls. So that's an interesting development. So the Doctor has to make Alex show George that he loves him and accepts him as his son, and he's not rejecting him in any way. Of course, Alex is, of course, a bit uncertain to begin with, but knowing it is his son, he accepts him wholeheartedly. And that pretty much wraps up the story. I think we maybe could have slowed down the pacing slightly a little bit. But as it's a 45-minute episode, I'll give it some slack. And I don't think it needs an extra 5 minutes. Maybe just an extra minute or two just to slow down. It's not like it's one of the recent episodes where they cram so much into 50 minutes. Or 60 minutes, or 65 minutes sometimes. And you feel like you needed an extra half episode, or at least an extra episode to finish it off. Night Terrors is a pretty well contained story. Got some really good moments with Matt Smith as per usual, as he's being pretty funny and not annoying, childish funny. He's just being usual 11th Doctor funny. He's quite fun in the moments where he's talking to Alex about whether they should open the cupboard. Some brilliant acting from Matt Smith, as well as some great acting from Daniel Mays, who's a great supporting actor in this story. The kid who plays George does a good job. I mean, he's not the best, but he's certainly not the worst. He's actually pretty good for the moments he gets. And George himself is a pretty good character, as is Alex. Amy and Rory do get a bit of stuff to do in this episode, but it doesn't contribute a huge amount to the overall story. They're just investigating the doll's house. This episode may not have originally had them in mind in being the episode. Maybe it would have been a Doctor Light episode, but these things were added a bit more. Though that may have been for the best, as although a whole episode with the Doctor, Alex and George may have been great, it was probably good to have a couple scenes with following some other characters. So splitting Amy and Rory up, splitting them up from the Doctor, was probably a good way to go, and showing the inside of the doll's house and it was pretty creepy. The dolls are also pretty creepy creatures in this story, although I'm not quite sure what their plan is. They just want to scare George, I guess, and turn up people into dolls and try and play or something. Well, the dolls aren't supposed to be complex or big character villains. They're just there to be a simple scare for George and to frighten the other characters. They're not supposed to be complex. They're just to be they're the usual monster of the week. So yeah, they're fine for what they are. And a pretty good design of them. They've got some pretty good designs there. And like I said, the transformation is freaking creepy. Ugh. Yeah. Overall, Mark Gatiss did a great job with writing the script, and Richard Clark, who directed The Doctor's Wife, as well as Series Three's episodes Gridlock and not the Shakespeare Code, the Lazarus Experiment, did a great job in crafting a really great scary episode. Mark Gatiss will become known in the new series for doing either, is in terms of a writer, either doing the horror episodes of the series, or a horror episode or episodes. Um, or doing a story set during in the past. In some cases, such as The Unquiet Dead, and I'm not sure if you'd say Cold War and The Crimson Horror, but certainly in Quiet Dead is a bit of both. And I definitely think he does a really great job. And similarly, Richard Clark does a great job in the direction front. Acting is great, characters are great, and it does have a really creepy feel. It's also good to have a scary story like this take place in a present day setting. We haven't really had any present day set stories this series, apart from the opening of both The Impossible Astronaut and the opening of Let's Kill Hitler, and also a few other scenes early on in Impossible Astronaut. But we haven't really had a present day stories of setting in this series just yet until now, and I think it's a good one, and it's nice to say that hey, you could have this alien cuckoo, a cuckoo like alien, living maybe next door in your flat, or the next house or something, and he or she could be getting very scared, and stuff could be going inside. If they have a dollhouse, they could have a dollhouse there, and if you're one of the things that scares them, you could be going in and um, being almost turned into a doll. If you are, and if you are unlucky to, you may get turned into a doll. So yeah, this is a pretty creepy episode that definitely has some great present day feel to it. It could be happening in for all you know, if all of this was taking place in real life, you could have had something like this taking place next door for all you know. That is definitely a great thing about the new series, especially in the Russell T Davies era, where you could have all of these usual, normal, everyday, mundane stuff being thrown upside down by science fiction, fantasy, etc. events. So yeah, that's pretty cool, and I think this episode does a good job with such a concept. So overall, I will be giving Night Terrors a 8 out of 10. I don't think it's incredibly perfect, but it's definitely a very good story. It's a well-written story, brilliantly directed, and some great horror throughout, as well as some great family drama and some pretty fun moments as well. And like I said, Matt Smith is just absolutely fantastic as per usual. Fantastic. He has not done anything wrong in terms of an acting wise. This not just this series, but since the 11th hour, Matt Smith has not done a single bad performance. And similarly, Karen and Arthur will do great as well as Amy and Rory. Some pretty good fun. So anyway, that's Night Terrors. That was a great episode. Next time, things are going to get a little bit more emotional for Amy and Rory, and they're going to have a lot more to do, as we're going to move to Series 6, Episode 10, The Girl Who Waited. And speaking of waiting, you'll have to wait until tomorrow to find out my thoughts on that episode. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nicholas Payne Retro YouTube channel. Sorry, it's just itchy. I wonder if I've got. There we go. That didn't quite hit. Try that. Some people outside. So, It's interesting to know. Whether it's necessary is quite. Actually, I'll cut that. I actually like it. And eventually, the Doctor has to convince Alex to show his acceptance. He's proved to George that he accepts him as his son and he loves him as his proves an accept. And the Doctor has to, but eventually his knowing that it is his son, his paternal care. But as it's a 45-minute episode, dead and perhaps maybe, oh bloody itch. But as it's a 45-minute episode, I won't give it too much slack. It's not like it's a 50-minute episode where everything has to be crammed in at the last minute. Or, though, to be honest, I think that is probably for the best. Because as great as a whole episode, excuse me, you know, they're not supposed to be these complex. Well, these characters. Mark Gatiss will be well known for doing his his horror horror episodes or his historical stories. So yeah, I think he definitely knocks it out. And it's nice to go back to the sorry about the noise outside. Go back to a scare. Oh, come on. Bloody itch. I don't think it's incredibly. So anyway, you have to wait. And speaking of waiting, you'll have to wait until tomorrow, and you'll have to wait until tomorrow.